Can you see it? Yes? Okay, very good. And so we'll begin with chanting the refugees and precepts. And then we'll chant the four divine abidings. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Okay, refugees in Pali. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi buddham saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi dhammam saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi sangham saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi buddham saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi dhammam saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi sangham saranam gacchami. We'll do precepts first in Pali and then in English. Panatipata veramani sikapadam samadhiyami. Adinadana veramani sikapadam samadhiyami. Kamesu michachara veramani sikapadam samadhiyami. Musavada veramani sikapadam samadhiyami. Surameraya majapamadhatana veramani sikapadam samadhiyami. I undertake the training to refrain from intentionally taking life. I undertake the training to refrain from taking that which is not given. I undertake the training to refrain from misuse of sexuality and the senses. I undertake the training to refrain from speech that is false, divisive, harsh, and meaningless. I undertake the training to refrain from intoxication, which leads to carelessness. Okay, so moving to the next chant, the four Brahma Viharas. Okay. I will abide, pervading 1/4 with a heart imbued with loving kindness. Likewise the second, likewise the third, likewise the fourth. So above and below, around and everywhere, and to all as to myself. I will abide, pervading the all-encompassing world, with the heart imbued with loving kindness, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. I will abide, pervading 1/4 with the heart imbued with compassion. Likewise the second, likewise the third, likewise the fourth. So above and below, around and everywhere, and to all as to myself. I will abide, pervading the all-encompassing world, with the heart imbued with compassion, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. I will abide, pervading 1/4 with the heart imbued with gladness. Likewise the second, likewise the third, likewise the fourth. So above and below, around and everywhere, and to all as to myself. I will abide, pervading the all-encompassing world, with the heart imbued with gladness, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. I will abide, pervading 1/4 with the heart imbued with equanimity. Likewise the second, likewise the third, likewise the fourth. So above and below, around and everywhere, and to all as to myself. I will abide, pervading the all-encompassing world, with the heart imbued with equanimity, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. So as we enter into a meditation practice, I would like to offer this poem. It beautifully demonstrates a helpful attitude to have in meditation. I am lying down, looking at the color of the sky falling through trees, dreaming the real, tasting what it feels like to love it. Why did it take me so long to let go? Simply exhale so the day could breathe itself in and open without me standing in the way. How could I forget the grace of my own body, strong as this blue, tender as this white, of the white blossom, warm as midday light? Let me practice a patience bold enough to hold everything, to hold every weather, trusting the elements, the beauty of rain, all its shades of gray. I want whatever is real to be enough. At least it's a place to begin and to master the art of loving it. Feel it love me back under my skin. So allowing yourself to exhale fully. And see if it's possible, as the poem suggested, to open up and even love all that's arising, at least through this practice, this short practice we have together. What would it be like? Breathing it all in, opening up to it, and even loving it. All of it. And then letting it love you back. What does it feel like to breathe in fully, to breathe out as fully as possible? So life can enter. We open up, we welcome all of it. And again, as the poem suggested, we learn to love it all. The difficult, the easy, pleasant, unpleasant. We still may not like it. We may prefer something else, and yet we can still love it and let it live, let it move through us. And let it love us back. So keep remembering your attention. Notice how is it engaged, and then choose to engage it in a way that's wholesome, in cultivation of awareness of the body, awareness of breathing body. Remembering your attention and returning to here and now. This body, this living, breathing body, sitting or lying down or standing. Opening up to this breath, this experience. Letting it fully enter so it can be known. Remembering your attention and returning to the awareness of the body. Breathing this breath right here, now. So we can choose, even if it's for a split of a second, to be here. to say yes to experiencing all that's present. Right here. And returning. Remembering and returning. Remembering and returning. So once again, welcome everyone. Is my sound okay? All right. So it's good to see familiar faces. And if you are able to, at some point, turn on your video, it would be really good to see your faces. And it also allows us to come together more as Sangha, if I can see your faces instead of the black squares with your name. So, you know, I turned my topic in for today in August, and it was supposed to be, I think, called like the wisdom of slowing down. It was supposed to be on patience, but it just didn't feel right. So I changed it last week, and the title was One Step at a Time, One Breath at a Time, and reflecting more in how we can engage with what's going on with compassion, energy, and perseverance. So I will be using, I'm aware that the email went out, so you may have seen the link to this Jataka tale. Jataka tales are apparently, according to the historian, scholar, and Wikipedia, yeah, they are 200, and some texts even say 500 years before BC. So they are very, very old, one of the oldest Buddhist texts. And what they are, according to the text, Buddha is retelling his past birth, where he was an animal or a god or a goddess, husband, wife, kid, all of it. And what I like about Jataka tale, coming from the country I'm coming from, where everyone watches fairy tales during Christmas. Adults, you know, some of them I've seen 30 times. I just love fairy tales and fables. So what I find so special about Jataka tale, that they don't point at the Dharma. They are the Dharma, embodied Dharma. How does it look when one lives it and acts and speaks according to the Dhamma, possessing all these virtues we call paramis. So the one I have chosen is called The Brave Little Parrot. And I will be alternating between reading the text and using my words. And I ask for your patience. It is really worth hearing the words as they are written. Plus, you know, my English is not so great. And I practice reading it. So hopefully I'll give it a justice, and you'll be able to stay engaged with it. So as I am reading it, and there will be symbolism, a lot of symbolism. Animals will speak, there will be gods, goddesses. There are two things you can hold in mind depending on you know, your conditioning and what you already know about the inner world. All of these characters in this tale can be part of you, right? So you can ask, like, what does this part represent? They can also be something outside of you, representing something outside of you. And I do offer my own interpretation, but hopefully we'll have a time to have a discussion, because this is meant to be alive in you, and it's meant to be retold and contemplated. And what I also love about this, it bypasses, for us who are thinkers, who can get stuck in views and opinions, ideas, this somewhat bypasses it, because it's full of symbolism and metaphors. Okay. So here we go. Once, long ago, the Buddha was born as a little parrot. One day a storm fell upon his forest. Lightning flashed, thunder crashed, and a dead tree, struck by lightning, burst into flames. Sparks leapt on the wind, and soon the forest was ablaze. Terrified animals ran wildly in every direction, seeking safety from the flames and smoke. Even here, we can consider, what does the fire represent, right? Where Buddha says, world is on fire. What fire? Greed, hatred, and delusion, right? So let's continue. Fire, fire, cried the little parrot, to the river. Flapping his wings, he flung himself out into the fury of the storm, and rising higher, flew towards the safety of the river. But as he flew, he could see that many animals were trapped, surrounded by the flames below, with no chance of escape. Right? So I like this. So he yelled everyone towards the river, but he could see not every animal could fly or swim. So I like it because sometimes when we act, even if it's out of compassion, we make quote unquote mistake. We go, oops, this didn't work. Right? So he's now up seeing all these animals trapped. Suddenly, a desperate idea, a way to save them, came to him. He darted to the river, dipped himself in the water, and flew back over the now raging fire. The heat rising up from the burning forest was like the heat of an oven. The thick smoke made breathing almost unbearable. A wall of flames shot up on one side and then the other. Crackling flames leapt before him. Twisting and turning through the mad maze of fire, the little parrot flew bravely on. At last, when he was over the center of the forest, he shook his wings and released the few drops of water which still clung to his feathers. The tiny drops tumbled down like jewels into the heart of the fire and vanished with sss. Then the little parrot once more flew back through the flames and smoke to the river, dipped himself in the cold water, and flew back again over the burning forest. Back and forth he flew, time and time again, from the river to the forest, from the burning forest to the river. His feathers were charred, his feet were scorched, his lungs ached, his eye, stung by smoke, turned red as coals. His mind spun dizzily as the spinning sparks, but still the little parrot flew on. At this time, some of the devas, so devas, gods and goddesses of the happy realm, were floating overhead in their cloud places of ivory and gold. This is really good to contemplate. What does this represent in us, devas and gods, right? So they are floating on the clouds made of ivory and gold. They happened to look down, and they saw the little parrot flying among the flames. They pointed at him with perfect hands. Between mouthful of honeyed food, they exclaimed, "Look at that foolish bird. He's trying to put out a raging forest fire with a few sprinkles of water. How absurd." And they laughed. The little parrot was just nearing the flames again when the great... Oh, sorry, I skipped a paragraph. So, and they laughed. But one of those gods strangely moved, changed himself into a golden eagle and flew down towards the little parrot's fiery path. The little parrot was just nearing the flames again when the great eagle, with eyes like molten gold, appeared at his side. "Go back, little bird," said the eagle in the solemn and majestic voice. "Your task is hopeless. A few drops of water can put out the forest fire. Seize now and save yourself before it is too late." So before I continue, we can think about, okay, what does the eagle represent? And I'll speak about that later. Okay. So I'm gonna skip here. The parrot continue flying back and forth, and the eagle continues saying, "Stop, you foolish parrot." And I love this part. "I don't need a great shining eagle," coughed the little parrot, "to give me advice like that. My own mother, the dear bird, might have told me such things long ago." Advice, coughed the little parrot. "I don't need advice. I need someone to help." I'm just gonna pause here. So for those who have done some psychology work and you are aware of the mother complex and conditioning, our psychological conditioning to some degree, I love these parts, right? Where the parrot says, "I don't need to hear this. You sound like my mother. I don't need advice. I want you to help." More on that later. So it really shows how mature the little parrot was. Okay, so continuing with the story. "And the god, who was the great eagle, seeing the little parrot flying through the flames, thought suddenly of his own privileged kind. He could see them high up above. There they were, the carefree gods, laughing and talking, while many animals cried out in pain and fear from the flames below. And he grew ashamed. Then one single desire was kindled in his heart. God, though he was, he just wanted to be like that brave little parrot and to help. "I will help," he exclaimed, and flushed with these new feelings, he began to weep. Stream after stream of sparkling tears poured from his eyes. Wave upon wave, they washed down like cooling rain upon the fire, upon the forest, upon the animals, and upon the little parrot himself. The flames died down and the smoke began to clear. The little parrot, washed and bright, rocketed about the sky, laughing for joy. "Now that's more like it," he exclaimed. The eagle's tears dripped from burned branches. Smoke rose up from the scorched earth. Miraculously, where those tears glistened, new life pushed forth, fresh shoots, stems, and leaves. Green grass pushed up from among the still glowing cinders. So I'll pause here. That part where the shame, which is Hiriyanotapa, arose in Eagle's heart. And I love how it said, flushed with these new feelings, he opened up to dukkha, to the pain. And then as the tears, wave after wave, touched the earth, everything began to renew itself. And we can contemplate that. It's referred to as new life pushed forth. Okay, so this continues a little bit, and I'll just finish. I'm looking at the time. All the animals looked at one another in amazement. They were whole and well. Not one had been harmed. So, that is the tale. And I just offer a few reflection. This has been something I went back in the last couple of weeks for inspiration to contemplate, for one that fears compassion. And as I was contemplating, sometimes we feel that what we do is so little and it will not make any difference. And think about this, there is a whole raging fire, which is what Buddha said about our world. Greed, hatred, and delusion are burning, said our minds are burning with it, and hence the world is burning. So few drops. And he continued and continued and continued. Another thing that I saw in it, he didn't really have expectations. There wasn't a time where he went, at least in the story, right? I'm using it as an inspiration. He didn't say, oh, no matter what I do, this fire will never stop. He continued. The few drops were worth that back and forth, back and forth. So this is, to me, the example of boundless, unconditional compassion without any expectations. And perseverance. He didn't know, I'm gonna do this, I don't know, for a couple hours, for a couple days, right? He just did it. 1 drop, 2 drops, 3 drops, 4 drops, 5 drops at a time. And then, again, these are my own interpretations and projections. So at some point, we go from the forest to the realm above, where gods and goddesses, devas are. And they are laughing, looking at the parrot, laughing. What can he do, this little parrot? So I was contemplating, what part in me is that, right? It's somewhat dissociated, right? Just floating on this cloud, floating, at all not being touched with the pain that's occurring, right? What part of me is that, right? And then there is one god or goddess that is, quote unquote, strangely moved. Heart opens, the dukkha gets in, and then that's what compassion is, right? When we allow the suffering to touch us, compassion is a natural response. So I was looking at why did they choose the image of ego? And then traditionally is the symbol of wisdom, freedom, strength, courage, and so on. But when I look at the spirit animal, and I look at some Native American writing about the eagle as a spirit animal, that is what I could really relate more to. So in their thought, the ego represents intuition, heightened sense of awareness, and perception. So that's part of us that is intuitive and aware. So I find it really interesting that from all the possible animals, this is the shape and embodiment that was chosen. And then as the parrot, so the eagle comes down and the parrot is still flying back and forth, and the eagle is telling him, what are you doing? You are gonna get burned. So I'm familiar with many fables and many myths because I really like it. And if you know the myth of Parsifal, but anyway, sometimes when we listen, not to all, but to some of the mother advice, we kind of hold back, we feel more restrained. And then that little parrot was, well, my mother was telling me this. What? It's no use. Just do something. I just really like that aspect of us that is mature enough, says, let's act, let's do something about this. And this is actually in all Jataka tales. It's more what we would call engaged Buddhism, how the Dharma looks in practice. Okay. And then, flushed with these new feelings, he began to weep. So I could really relate to that image. As a result of election for me personally, there was just tremendous sadness for me. And sadness to the degree that my lungs hurt. If you know Chinese medicine, this is where the emotion, grief, and sadness sits. And for 2 days, I was coughing, my lungs were dry. My husband is telling me, you are sick, you need to go to doctor. Knowing my body, I said, no, I'm not sick, it's just sadness. And then one day, actually, I was doing chanting and moving practice together, chanting and then moving practice. And I just wept. And there was such a relief. I mean, it completely disappeared. And I was able, because I felt somewhat not able to act, like really overwhelmed. And after that, I was able to stay engaged and hold, right, all my groups. And so I find it so interesting where they refer here, like he began to weep. And then as the tears touch the ground, right, we can think about it. What does it touch inside of you? What is the ground? Scorched ground, right? What does that represent? And then that image, they say, new life pushed forth, right? And I find it over and over again as I guard and close off and protect myself from suffering, right? I feel stuck. It's like this old stuff just churning over and over again. And when there is a little bit of opening, right, that's what we try to practice in meditation, and the compassion, the sadness, and can touch me completely, enter me, then there is a possibility when like for new life, it means perhaps there is new idea, new inclination, new action, something I haven't taught, something that's not conditioned, right? Something new can come forth, right? Not, and perhaps just new me in the way I show up. And you know, there are miracles in Jataka tales, right? That not only the fire is put out, but everything is new. All the trees, flowers, grass, everything is sprouting, and none of the animals right? Including the parrot. Apparently, when I didn't read that part, but when the tears fell on the parrot, his scorched feathers, which were actually gray when it all started, what happened, he began to grow like red feathers and blue feathers and yellow feathers and turned out to be this new bird that was so beautiful, as opposed when the tale started, where he was the gray little parrot. Just something to contemplate, right? Okay, so let's see if there is anything else to say. Perhaps one more thing I'll say. You know, sometimes, this is me included, we demand change. We want you change, we want this to change. And then when we contemplate, how does change happen, right? And that is, there are all these theories and so on. But for me personally, can I embody the change I want to see? Right? Can I embody the change I want to see? And, you know, this is because there was such a generosity also at the parrot, right? So generous. So can I be generous that others perhaps are touched and begin to even trust it? Or can I be compassionate? Because it's not, how to say it, that other can be touched and then they begin to trust. I have so much faith and trust in the Dharma, right? But perhaps when I embody it, the others can be touched. So they start trusting, oh, this is compassion is wholesome. I can trust that instead of greed or hatred, right? So can I be the change that I want to see? And at the same time, like the bird, the little parrot, even though it looked so hopeless. And I was reading this at the beginning, right? I didn't know how it's gonna end. I'm like, boy, with few drops, how this is gonna end, right? One drop at a time, one drop at a time. Anyway, so I hope that leaves you with some new ways of looking at how can you contribute, what can you do, what paramis and or Brahma Viharas you can draw upon right now to give you strength, to keep you balanced, and to keep going one drop at a time. As the title of the talk, I think, was one step at a time, one breath at a time. So I'm aware of the time. So thank you so much for being here. I do have 2 announcements, and then we do have a discussion period. Oh, actually, let me stop the recording first.